Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Snoo61002. It's a long post with lots of updates as well. It is titled, "Am I the Arsehole for getting annoyed at my sister-in-law dying of cancer, ruining my wedding?" There is trigger warnings on this of obviously talk of cancer, abuse, verbal abuse, golden child dynamics, and gaslighting as well. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. I don't intend for the title to be so harsh sounding, but I don't know how else to put it. I'll also sound blunt, but I'm just posting the facts as presented. I'm marrying my partner, A, who we'll call Alice, who is from another country. Her sister, B, we're going to call Beth, is dying of cancer. It is heartbreaking. She is a young mother and wife. Her diagnosis was about 4 years ago. When she was first diagnosed, she was given 1 to 2 years. Since we're in a different country, Beth remained in her home country with her family after her sister Alice immigrated. We saved up some money and traveled to say goodbye to her. It was about the 1.5 year mark when we went to say goodbye, and we had gotten engaged soon beforehand. So we also went over to visit some of the family and asked them how long they needed to save to come across for our wedding, as our dollar is much stronger than theirs. They said 2 years, so that was agreed. We spent a month with her, laughing, lamenting, spending as much quality time as possible with her. By the end of the trip though, and with the chemo, she was exhausted. We said our heartbreaking goodbyes, assuming to never see her again. And then she made a miraculous recovery, with less than a 1% chance of happening, which was awesome. We, along with other family members who had also immigrated, such as her father and brother, decided to put money together and support her to move over here to spend the rest of her life with us. That was about a year ago. Now my partner and I are getting married in 2 weeks. All of her family are coming to visit. It's a big, joyous occasion with lots of travel. We forked out thousands to help her family get here, and they're all staying for a month or so to celebrate our wedding and spend time with us. 2 weeks ago, Beth got a bad diagnosis. They found lumps, and they said she has about a year left to live. She, for obvious reasons, didn't handle this well and lashed out at us in our wedding, telling us not to talk about it around her. My partner has always kind of lived in her older sister's shadow, so she was really excited to be celebrated and made a fuss of for once. But Beth has told everyone about her diagnosis and has started saying, "This is the last time I will see most of you." Now the focus is completely off my partner and our wedding, and it is absolutely about Beth. I feel heartless and heartbroken, but I'm frustrated by this. She's been going out of her way to make sure the people who are coming across, who we have paid thousands for flights, not that it matters that much, are spending as much time with her as possible, and this is the last time she will see them. Now, this period of joy and celebration has an undeniable black cloud hung over it, and people very obviously have stopped making my partner feel special. On top of this, Beth has maintained her stance that we will not talk about our wedding around her. But the big issue is that Beth got married during COVID, so never got a father-daughter dance. She wants to have one at our wedding, after my partner has a father-daughter dance, with her own song, which, to be honest, sad as fuck. I've said no because my partner wanted to say no but felt too guilty, so I had to be the bad guy. I also told my partner that if we're not to talk about our wedding around her sister, then I don't want her sister talking about her dying around us. Now I'm being called an arsehole. I do absolutely feel like one, but I also feel like this is grossly unfair to ask us to brush our wedding under the carpet because of this. Am I the arsehole? And edit, sorry I just woke up and will work through the many comments as fast as I can. I really appreciate all the views and discussions. It's precisely why I came here. Genuinely, thank you. A commenter comes in and asks, this is a twisted question, however, is there proof positive she's sick? Hear me out, the timing has seen her immigrate on the dime of others. Her recovery was miraculous. Then right at the moment her sister is getting married, she has a relapse. Even if she had proof she was sick initially, her relapse has let her get all of her sister's wedding attention plus all the redo on her wedding stuff. I know I sound callous, but from this platform I learned people are capable of all kinds of stuff. Opie replies saying, "I share these concerns. I'm just not sure what to do about them. I can't accuse her of lying for attention. The whole situation will explode." Another one asks the same question and says, "You're right, I'm really struggling with this thought, but if she makes another miraculous recovery, I'm going to feel like a massive dick, because everyone will be celebrating, and to be honest, I'll be furious, jaded, and distrusting. My father is a very distrusting man. He raised this exact same point and said he's not sure he believes the diagnosis is as bad as she's saying it is, but we'll see, in the worst possible way." And there was many commenters talking about her possibly exaggerating her diagnosis or maybe even faking it. So over 2 weeks later, Opie comes in with their first update and says, "People asking for updates about my post a couple of weeks ago. The lead up to the wedding was a bit nightmarish. Sister-in-law tried to tell someone they couldn't come to the wedding because of something they said. They told sister-in-law she could only afford a really nice new car because she and her partner are staying with her dad and he's paying all of her medical bills. We curbed that by changing our seating plan last minute, asking the person to come, and he still came thankfully. Then the plan was to go up to the town the wedding was in for a few days for my wife to spend time with her family. We paid for her little brother and little cousin's accommodation because they couldn't afford it. Week of wedding, sister-in-law convinces both little brother and cousin to only travel up for only the wedding, not to stay with family. Sister-in-law wasn't traveling up because of some vague and changing reason. There was a fight on their family side. It supposedly got resolved and sister-in-law got given the hard word. But then little cousin didn't come up with family and stayed home with sister-in-law. So I told my partner to directly pass this on to sister-in-law. I was in a different accommodation for the lead up. If there is a medical event, I'll call and cover costs for an ambulance at the smallest hiccup. If she plays up, her husband will take her home immediately and without argument, or myself and the other 2 ex-bouncer groomsmen will kick them out. If her family don't want this to happen, they will get this sorted before I do because they've disappointed me with their soft approach, and now they've all been warned." Edit. The dance happened, but on our terms. It was when the dance floor opened to everyone and was a happy song, and the day went off without a hitch. It was beautiful, perfect, happy, fun, and everything we wanted it to be. No drama, no major issues, and my new wife loved every moment. She was spoiled and made to feel special. Thank you for all the suggestions and kind words. We assigned mother-in-law to sister-in-law for the day. There was almost a hiccup when sister-in-law's uncle reversed a brand new car into my ring bearer's car and sister-in-law started firing up, but it was curbed. A beautiful day because of your guys' support. So truly, thank you. And the commenters on the back of this were fist pumping, cheering on OP, and that things went well for the wedding. But OP came in a little time later with a new post titled, "Am I the arsehole for completely cutting off my dying sister-in-law and telling her family not to contact me?" And it says, "I'm the same person who had the wedding dramas. While the wedding went off without a hitch, we've had a major problem since. Feels like season 2 of a frigging soap opera. I'm sorry this is a little long, but there's a lot of context. My sister-in-law is dying of cancer. Recently my partner and I got married and sister-in-law made the whole process as difficult as possible. Shared the link to the post and then said, please read this for the full context. While we were visiting family the other day, I was relaxing on a couch which sits below a ledge in a lounge, so you couldn't see me from the dining room. I was there with wife and wife's family, but older sister-in-law didn't realize I'd come with. My partner and her little sister, not the same sister-in-law, came into the dining area in tears and sat down next to their mum. Before they could say anything, older sister-in-law came in and talked to them with a venom I have never seen. She was shouting at them and talking to them like they were children, telling them to never dare walk away from her again during an argument. There was a viciousness at a level that I'd never tolerate being spoken to like from anyone. The argument happened because we had come to pick up the nephew, son of older sister-in-law, from school so that sister-in-law could rest. I'll give more info on this fight in comments. Older sister-in-law told her family it's a privilege for them to babysit her child, and that if they're going to try and help, then they need to do it how she asks, when she asks. She spoke to my wife like she was scum several levels below her. When I stood up, an older sister saw me. She jumped with shock and then immediately stormed out of the room. I stood up and said, we're leaving. In the car, I said to my wife that if sister-in-law ever spoke to her like that again, there would be harsh, firm boundaries put in place. Later, we received a message from sister-in-law's husband saying we were being selfish and making the whole family visit about us and our wedding, which was what it was originally about when everyone planned to come. They were visiting for our wedding. The problem is that this has been happening for months, and I feel like an idiot because when my wife told me about it, she downplayed it. Sister-in-law's family all keep saying she's dying, it's affecting her mind, or let's just move past it so we can enjoy the time we have left with her. And sister-in-law's treatment of my wife has gotten worse and worse and worse. Sister-in-law keeps trying to convince people not to spend time with us while they're here. She exempts herself from family plans and then makes new plans excluding my wife, and tells people my wife is being greedy with others' company. My wife came home yesterday in tears, saying she had considered driving a car off a bridge because of how much sister-in-law had broken her heart. My wife went to say goodbye to one of her uncles who was flying out, and sister-in-law apparently did the same thing as the day before, but worse. According to a couple of the witnessing family members, I had to hold her while she sobbed uncontrollably for 15 minutes, asking me why her sister was doing this to her when all she had done was try to love her. This is the part that might make me an arsehole. I put a message into the group chat I'm in with her immediate family saying, to cut a long story short, I will not talk to any of you until you start to hold sister-in-law accountable for her actions. Any promises of unifying our families was a lie until sister-in-law apologizes and shows she's going to cut this shit out. That my wife's unrelenting kindness is being exploited for weakness. That my wife is psychologically unsafe around her own family. That I swore in my vows to protect my wife and that I have no interest in being a part of a family who treats each other like this. I said I'd be leaving the conversation. I don't want anyone to contact me unless it's to apologize to my partner and explain how things will be different moving forward, and not to add me into any group conversations. I blocked any form of contact access that sister-in-law had. My wife didn't want me to send the message because she didn't want to make things worse. I told her things were being made worse by her family's unwillingness to call out sister-in-law because she's dying, and my partner told me I can do what I feel I need to do, but her family will be upset with me. Now they've called a family meeting, and I've refused to go until my wife has apologized to, and the family outright promised to hold her sister accountable. Her family are all very upset at me for saying what I said about our two families joining, and that I'm being harsh to sister-in-law who is dying. My own family think I'm being too harsh, except my dad and older brother who think I'm making the right choice. Am I the arsehole here? Opie added a comment below this and said, for the interested, the context for the first fight. Sister-in-law asked us the night before to pick up our nephew from daycare so that she could rest for the day. We told her we couldn't, as we had plans to show family who were visiting some of the sites of our city. But we're actually done a lot earlier than we thought we would be, so we tried to call sister-in-law or her hubby. Both weren't answering, so we went to sister-in-law's house to check and see if she still wanted us to take him. She lost her shit saying that if we want to help her, it's on her terms, that we should consider any time we spend with her son to be a privilege, and that we weren't to disturb her unless we knew she was open to us visiting. This was all said when she didn't realize I was there, and I deeply regret saying nothing at the time. I'd hoped the family would put her in her place. And there were still people talking about the diagnosis, if it's true, etc. But again, regardless, being terminally ill can explain some behaviors, but it doesn't excuse it. Sometimes people are just arseholes, right? And I would get, if sister-in-law was scared, grieving, just angry at the world because of her diagnosis, if it's true, of course. I think many people would mentally struggle with it, right? But this has gone way beyond giving her some grace now, and the whole family seems to be enabling this bullshit. It's got to the point where almost like she's driven her own sister to the point where she's talking about driving off a bridge. But a couple of weeks later, Opie has another post that says, would I be the arsehole for getting involved in the fights between my sister-in-law and her little sister and mother? This also serves as another update. I want to make clear though that I'm not karma farming. I don't expect upvotes, but I genuinely need the sage advice this Reddit provides that has helped me navigate this incredibly complex issue. Link to that below. My sister-in-law is dying of cancer. I still really struggle with the whole situation because it's heartbreaking for her husband and her son. Recently, she and I fell out big time over the treatment of my wife, who I felt the need to protect. To cut a long story short, there was a family meeting about all the fighting happening. My wife's parents are separated and she has a half-sister on her mum's side, but she doesn't see her like that. She's her sister through and through. The father's side all had a meeting and they agreed to end the fighting and not tolerate sister-in-law's behavior. I was at the house when it happened, but not part of the meeting. I was there to make sure if I heard screaming and shouting, I would go and get my wife out of the situation. The sister-in-law came to me and apologized. She sobbed and begged me to forgive her. I felt uncomfortable for sure, but she seemed genuine. Ever since, she has been incredibly kind, careful, and gentle with my wife. As far as I'm concerned, issue is currently settled. It may flare up again in the future. Edit here, I have since learned she didn't actually apologize to my wife, she just agreed to end hostilities, but she did apologize to me, which is dog shit. I wasn't owed an apology, wife was, but it's peace for now at least. I was reflecting on the situation with her mother and little sister, who I call little sister-in-law. When I talked to them about it, they opened up that sister-in-law was treating her mum and little sister-in-law exactly how she treated my wife. That she had stopped behaving like that to my wife, but hasn't stopped the behavior with little sister-in-law and mother-in-law. Apparently when I'm not there, she still screams at them, gaslights them. She'll say she wasn't screaming at them at all, even outright says, "No, I didn't say that," about something she said word for word, and uses her son's relationship with them as a means of control. She also demeans little sister-in-law big time, talking to her like a toddler, saying that little sister-in-law doesn't understand big feelings to her son, even though little sister-in-law is doing a PhD. Little sister-in-law and mother-in-law fly home in a couple of days, and sister-in-law may never see them again. It also means sister-in-law has been banking on the fact that they won't be able to confront her permanently because she doesn't have to live with them. Little sister-in-law and mother-in-law have tried meetings with sister-in-law, but it's not working because sister-in-law knows they will be leaving soon. Part of me says that this is no longer my issue. Part of me says that they're also my family and I should protect them. Part of me says I'll make the whole situation worse by getting involved. I also don't want to disempower mother-in-law and little sister-in-law, but at the same time, I can see the corner they're being put in. They've tried to stand up to her, but she cuts them off. But I also don't want to overstep. My wife is as conflicted as I am, and probably more worried about disturbing the fragile peace she finally has. Would I be the arsehole if I got involved and told sister-in-law a treatment of little sister-in-law and mother-in-law isn't okay and I won't accept it? Like I say, you don't have to upvote me, but I'd appreciate advice in the comments. Here's the previous issue, it's the sister-in-law and the first dance at the wedding issues, and shared the link to that. Hope he came back in 2.5 months later and just said, "Am I the arsehole for not forgiving my dying sister-in-law?" Recapped some of the previous posts that we just covered. From the beginning, basically, the miraculous recovery, her getting sick again, about how she was angry and bitter and was attacking OP's wife constantly, about screaming and shouting, demeaning the wife, to the point where she apologized to OP, but OP doesn't really think that she meant it. Then goes on to say, that was a few months ago. Now sister-in-law will very likely die before the new year. The doctor's reports aren't great. Her body isn't handling the sickness well. She's almost bedridden, and she has started making her plans for when she passes. She's going to go through the process of euthanasia. She said she wants her husband to take their son out of the room and for my wife to hold her hand because she doesn't want to go alone. She's scared, heartbroken in regards to this issue, deeply sorry for how she acted. She keeps crying and apologizing for it, and I do think she has come to regret it, but she repeatedly abused my wife, and I mean serious abuse, for the month that the family were all here from overseas. She manipulated people, tried to prevent them from seeing us, and made my wife feel horrible anytime she saw her happy. I didn't initially believe she was as sick as she is, but I have to bite the bullet and admit I was wrong on that front. I'd resigned myself not to forgive her for some time because of how much harm she committed against my wife. Now that she's dying with not much longer left, she's been apologizing to us for what she did. The thing is, I don't want to forgive her. I'm still angry for what she did to us. I'm angry that at the time, she was ruling the family like a tyrant, and she has permanently made my wife feel guilty on her own birthdays. I'm angry that she proactively tried to ruin our once-in-a-lifetime wedding. And I don't want to forgive her, but my wife wants me to do so that her sister can die with peace in her heart. I've been struggling for a week now, but I learned that a couple of the other family members are feeling the same way as me, though they don't want to talk about it. She had abused and isolated them as well. I can't pretend to forgive her. I'm a terrible liar, and you can see through it from a mile away. In my heart, I'm still angry at her. If I can't find a way to forgive her before she dies, am I the arsehole? 3.5 weeks after that, OP came in with another post saying, "Am I the arsehole here for threatening to call the police on my sister-in-law?" Cutting straight to the chase, my sister-in-law is dying of cancer and she's becoming frail and sickly. She's still at a stage where she is relatively active, although for long periods of walking and standing she does need a wheelchair. But it's not quite as simple as calling the police on her. It's quite complicated, so please do read below. My wife, whose sister-in-law has been abusive to in the past, can't stop forgiving her because she is dying. I've gotten involved when I'm present in the past, but sister-in-law has since stopped doing it when I'm around. I refuse to leave my wife's side for some time, but of course I can't always be there. It was my sister-in-law's son's 5th birthday on the weekend. Sister-in-law kept talking about how this was the last birthday she'd get to spend with him, and she wanted to make it really special. My wife volunteered to help sister-in-law get the party ready. This ended up being a 16-hour day where my wife pushed my sister-in-law around malls, bought things for the party, and then baked a huge multi-layer cake and cupcakes. When I finished work, I went over to my father-in-law's, where sister-in-law is staying, and offered to cook a big dinner for everyone to alleviate stress and pressure. So after work, I went and cooked for 4 hours. My wife also has a condition, rheumatoid arthritis, where if she's standing for long periods of time, her feet get incredibly sore and swollen. Sister-in-law was picking fights with the whole family by the time it was dinner time. She picked a fight with her stepmother, her father, her husband, her little brother, but not me and wife yet. However, once I had cooked dinner, she refused to eat it and left to go and blow up balloons in the garage because I cooked it too late. The problem was that it was slow-cooked beef, and while we were out shopping, they only arrived back about 4 p.m. with the meat, so I put it on straight away and dinner came out at 8 p.m. But then after finishing the balloons, to cut a long story short, sister-in-law came and had a go at us for taking so long to cook and to bake. My wife then complained about having sore feet and needing to sit down for a break, about 15 minutes. Sister-in-law took issue with it, and sister-in-law replied with, "Oh, you're sore. Try being me." My wife started to tear up and pressed the issue about how her feet were swollen and blue, and sister-in-law said to stop being so goddamn dramatic. This was about 10:30 p.m. Wife had been there since 7:30 a.m. when everyone else was asleep. I'd had enough. I'd stood up for my wife and said, "We're only here as a favor to you. We don't have any obligation to help you with your son's birthday party." She didn't like this, so she threatened to go and get her husband and make things get really ugly if I wanted to. She bragged in the past about how her husband's willingness to violence and how he is sweet until he is pushed and then he fights to kill. The first time she threatened it, she said it and turned away, so I waved it off. She came out and had another go at my wife. I told her to back off. She tried to kick us out. I told her it's not her house, it's her father's, and my wife is her daughter too, so has every right to be there. She then said again, "Okay, you don't want to leave? Then I get my husband involved and things will get really messy." Which I replied, "Okay, but I'll give you the choice of response. I can either bring the dog up from downstairs. We have a very protective doggo, medium-sized collie/bulldog, or I can call the police. You choose." Early on in my study, I was a doorman, so I'm capable of self-protection, but I absolutely hate it, and considering their 4-year-old was in the house and still awake, getting in a fight was not on the cards, especially as it cost me my career, as below. Another issue is that my sister provably lies and has repeatedly lied to us all. Her family just turn a blind eye to it. I can't stress how easily and willingly she lies. For example, I overheard her trying to get her husband to become violent by saying, "The police are being called because I didn't want OP to be involved in the argument, so now he's calling the police for asking him to stay out of it." For the record, I didn't and wasn't calling the police, but I would have if her husband came out. There's been a huge blowout. I was fairly confident I had done the right thing, but now my wife's family are all saying I overreacted and that it's completely not okay for me to threaten to involve the police. They're asking how a frail, sickly 5'1" woman could possibly be enough of a threat to warrant the police, and asking what she could actually do. But they're not saying this to me, they're saying it to my wife, so I don't want anything to do with them. For context, they're immigrants on visas. A police incident would see them very likely deported, though to me, this just means that sister-in-law would lie as much as she possibly could to the police. I did not want to have to get violent because I don't like violence. I'm a chaplain for our national paramedicine organization, and I'd lose my job that I've trained for the last 8 years and worked for 15 years, and have 2 more years of study to join the priesthood. I would lose all of this. Did I overreact by threatening to call the police? Am I the arsehole here? Opie created another post which was asking, am I the arsehole for not supporting and caring about my sister-in-law who has cancer during her separation? Recapped parts of the post again, so I'm not going to keep going over them. But Opie says, which leads us to today. Sister-in-law's husband is leaving her because he doesn't like how she treats their son. My wife came to me and said that through everything, it's still her sister. She feels horrible for her and she wants to be kind to her and support her. This means breaking one of our current rules, that sister-in-law is not allowed near our home because of how dangerous she is. She has fabricated lie after lie about our fight, and some of them have been extremely damaging. I do not trust her to be around us in case there's a one-to-one situation and she invents a damaging enough lie to impact my career. She's a small, frail woman dying of cancer, and she has used this to try and cut my wife and I off from her family many times since our fight by making up the most phenomenal bullshit. Apparently before I left, I stood there and I verbally abused her, calling her the C word and physically threatened her, which was impossible because I left with my wife. Unfortunately for sister-in-law, her behavior has been so toxic for so long that most of the family don't care about her situation anymore and thankfully don't usually believe her. The reason I might be the arsehole is because when my wife came to me to explain, it's time to let bygones be bygones, and maybe by showing her kindness during this incredibly difficult period, we're being the bigger person. And also, she's still my sister, and at the end of the day, I love her. My response was, I don't give a shit. She's made her bed, she can sleep in it. I said I stand by the rule she is not welcome in our home, and this saddens my wife because we moved into our first ever home 3 months ago, and sister-in-law is the only person who hasn't seen it. My wife says I'm being too harsh, and that we're not cruel people, and we don't have to stoop to sister-in-law's level. I've told my wife, I don't want that nutcase anywhere near me or my house. Am I the arsehole? Oh dearie me, it sounds like the wife is falling back into that trap again, which is not good, and I think OP just needs to keep his foot put down and saying, absolutely, I don't want someone like that around me, especially if she could easily affect your career like that at the same time, and you'd hope wife would realize that too. And Opie comes back one more time 13 months later, recaps a good part of it again, but says sister-in-law's family enable her because she has cancer. She does, and every time they stand up to her, she's suddenly on death's door and ill. She has, no exaggeration, been darly unwell that it might be time to say goodbyes 8 times over the past 3 years. She's had a 1% chance of recovery 5 times now. Whenever she pulls this crap, I hear the same line over and over. You don't want to have regrets when she's gone. I've told my wife that she'll have more regrets trying to maintain a relationship, and she agrees. But every time sister-in-law abuses someone, she's forgiven without apology by the rest of the family, who inevitably start guilt-tripping my wife on sister-in-law's behalf. It's an exhausting cycle. To the point my wife has maintained a relationship with sister-in-law's son, wife's nephew, 5. He's a really sweet little boy, and he spent his whole life so far being told his mummy is going to die very soon by his mum and dad. I've noticed that sister-in-law heavily controls contact to nephew and then hides behind him. This week just gone, sister-in-law was in a shit-stirring mood, so when my wife asked if nephew wanted to spend time together, she replied with, "Oh, we're back to talking like normal now, are we?" My wife held her ground. Shock horror, it turned into a fight. Sister-in-law's husband got involved, and now they're both telling my wife she can't see nephew, until she starts being nice to his mother, and that nephew doesn't want to see her until she is. Which is to say, my wife has to stop standing up for herself. I've had enough, and to be honest, was probably too harsh, but I lost count the amount of times this exact scenario has played out. Sister-in-law starts trouble, lies and says horrible things. For example, I work with children, so she went around telling people I abused her and her son. Refuses to front up, dangles a relationship with nephew in person's face, and then we all move forward. It's cyclical. It's constant. She does it with everyone. I have no idea what to do for her son other than to wait until she's gone and then try and support him. Whenever he's come over with wife, I've played with him and spent time in the garden with him or just hung out together. I feel horrible for him. I told my wife to accept that she cannot have a relationship with her nephew until her sister is dead, and that she needs to stop fueling and enabling this cycle. The problem is that my wife is really soft-hearted and cares really deeply about her nephew, so her sister keeps using that against. But at this point, I don't care anymore. I'm tired of consoling my wife over the same issue. I'm tired of her sister being anywhere near our life, and I'm tired of nephew being successfully weaponized against my wife. So I told her to go complete no contact with them, and then see where things stand when sister-in-law is dead. It feels horrible just writing it, which is why I'm wondering, am I the arsehole? Comments on this one said, not the arsehole, she needs to go no contact. Sister-in-law seems like a horrible person, and I feel so sorry for the nephew. Hopefully he doesn't grow up to be like his mother. I'm assuming the cancer is terminal. Opie says, we've always been told the cancer is terminal, but sister-in-law tightly controls medical information. Not even her husband can go with her to appointments. I wish beyond anything else, wife would go no contact. Commenter says, she accused you of child abuse and your wife still wants contact with her. Opie says, yeah, this is a bit of a tough point. My wife truly does not want anything to do with her, but her sister is incredibly proficient at manipulation. So she starts to manipulate people into spending less time with my wife if my wife stands up to her. She'll tell my wife's brother and sister a mountain of lies about a fight they've had, and at this point, they just can't be bothered to picking a side, so they stop talking to my wife until things are sorted. Sister-in-law holds people emotionally hostage incredibly well, and unfortunately, I never thought it should be so, my wife is really soft-natured and family-orientated, so she is successfully held hostage. And if it doesn't work, sister-in-law escalates it more and more by telling people if they spend time with wife, sister-in-law will cut them off, and they'll regret it when she's dead soon. Commenter says, have you ever said to one of these other family members who are causing problems, if you're weak enough to let a narcissist manipulate you, do it elsewhere? Opie says, I've tried to talk to the family about it many times, but they very bluntly say, I do not want to be involved, I do not want to talk about it, it's your guys' fight. I harbor a lot of anger and resentment at them for it, and I hate that. But they refuse the conversation because, I believe, they know I'm right. Commenter says, how can she prove that she has cancer when her husband isn't even allowed to go to appointments? I want to see labs, I want doctors' names, I want the prognosis, I want the doctor's notes or it's fake. Opie says, I'm completely with you on this one. Whenever someone tries this line with sister-in-law, she bursts into tears and screams at them for accusing her of lying about something that is going to tear her away from her son and husband soon. I think I'm a lot harder-hearted than my wife's family because I didn't give a shit about that line. But I did get her a free hospice stay. I worked with a hospice a couple of years ago when she's supposedly on death's door. Without details, they did confirm she had cancer, but as you rightly pointed out, who knows now? She hasn't done anything to treat it though. So I imagine it's still there, just not aggressive at all. Commenter says, not the arsehole, but this whole thing is way above Reddit's pay grade. Your wife needs counseling to help her work through her issues. There's a reason she keeps going back and she needs help identifying and addressing those things. Are you sure your sister actually has cancer? Opie says, yeah, my wife gets regular counseling to help her. We're a very mental health focused household. We both work with kids. We both have a background in psych. But the problem is that sister-in-law gets given the power to collapse my wife's relationships with the entire family. I harbor resentment towards them for that, but I try my best just to support my wife. I very rarely say she should or shouldn't do, but it's getting to the point now where I can't protect her unless she can protect herself. She definitely had cancer. She's had operations and been in hospice care, but I have no idea where it's at now. She eats like complete rubbish and refuses to take medicine. It's like she keeps herself sick to maintain the power and control. One more commenter says, I'm curious as to what kind of cancer she has. Is it metastatic? Has it gone away and came back? I'm asking because you can easily research trials going on, survival rate, new treatments, etc. Information about her cancer will give you ideas of how to combat the I'm dying response. I would cut off everyone who blames your wife or criticizes her for setting up a boundary. If this means not having a lot of family to go to, so be it. At the end of the day, you need to be able to live peacefully. Her sister sounds toxic. Her sister knows your wife will go back to her, and so there aren't any repercussions for her behavior. She gets away with her moods and toxic behavior because no one has said enough is enough. If everyone walked away, then she'd be forced to do something internalizing, but even then, she might play victim. Not the arsehole in case that wasn't abundantly clear. OP replies one more last time and says, it is gone and come back. It was gone, and then my wife and I had our wedding where people flew in from overseas and suddenly while everyone was here, it came back. Then it was gone. Then on my wife's birthday, it came back. I've tried to make that same point to my wife, but honestly, sister-in-law has constant access to them all and uses her illness to abuse them and call them abusive if they stand up to her. And of course, people are still skeptical about the cancer diagnosis after all that, especially, she's very protective of all this medical information, hiding it from even her husband, etc. But what an exhausting thing to go through. And like for OP's perspective, I'd be like, at what point do you really just have to say enough is enough? The fact that your wife is saying that you should be forgiving this, you should be moving on, etc. This woman has accused you of abuse, child abuse. Someone did that to me. I don't care if you're dying or not. I wouldn't want nothing to do with you again. But the fact that the wife keeps going back and getting manipulated or whatever it is, there's clearly issues there that the wife needs to work through. But at what point you say you need to cut these people off, or, you know, because it's just damaging our own relationship right now. And that's the way it certainly felt towards the end. You know, you can make as many excuses for the wife as you like, but at some point you have to recognize that it's doing damage to yourself, to the OP, and to the relationship itself. And if she's not going to change any of that behavior, it's going to fuck everything up, right? And wife is going to be left with sister-in-law and back into that abuse. Because for me, if I was in that position, I'd certainly be like considering noping out of there, having like a proper conversation and saying, yeah, this is the point that I'm at now. If this doesn't change, like, we need to completely cut that person out of our lives, then I am done here. Because no one should be living with this amount of drama in your lives, right? Holy shit. But what do you guys make of this situation? What would you do if it was you? What do you think is going on? Like, as everyone keeps like speculating on the cancer diagnosis, you know, maybe she did have it, maybe, and maybe it's gone now. Maybe she does have it. Let us know your thoughts. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. It truly does mean the world, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.